So we believe that all artists also deserve to be honored equivalently and equitably. And so if you come to Harwood every month throughout a given year, you will see, we hope, a landscape of what's happening in New Mexico across the arts. And for us, that includes our community's most established artists, it includes our community's emerging artists, and it includes artists in our community who may or may not identify as artists, including individuals and families facing homelessness or addiction or incarceration. And all of those artists are offered a meaningful invitation to come and work with us. And we provide free arts education programming throughout the year for all ages, as well as classes and workshops for adults. We invite you to pick up our spring calendar. There are still some great offerings left. And of course, our core offerings for artists include artist studios and galleries, exhibitions, commissions, teaching and employment opportunities. Now, before, and I love that you stood up too, but just like reflexively.
I just thought I should.
We'll sit down and get comfortable.
Okay.
But before we do that, before we jump in with Ian, I just want to recognize, especially because it came up in our prep conversation for this evening, that he had questions about our selection process, and he wondered if his story or his artwork were more important. And so I want to share with you that we always start with the artwork. And Ian's artwork rose out and above in its individuality, in its style, in its voice, and ultimately in the story that he was trying to tell. And so the story reinforced our interest in our choice, but our invitation to Ian was to show work that we felt was singular in its perspective and in its craft. So with that, please join me in congratulating and welcoming Ian for his first exhibition at Harwood Arts Center. I think this is a testament to the extraordinary community that he and his mom, Deborah, please stand. We want to acknowledge you. And we would be remiss not to name and invite acknowledgement of you. And we do have some other things, but we'll hold those until the end. What?
She's a big fish.
She's a big fish. Your mom is a big fish. And I think you would be instrumental in this show, maybe having something to do with the artist being on Earth, maybe having something to do with the artist feeling like supported and encouraged to pursue a show. So I wrote Deborah an email last week saying that it's my wish for the world that every young person has a champion the way Ian has her. It's remarkable. So we're going to settle in to be a little bit more casual and comfortable. We're going to have a conversation and we're inviting you all in. Ian expressed that he wanted to talk for a bit. I'm going to prompt him with some questions, and then we're going to hold space for yours. We also we're very prompt here. Intentionally, we started a tiny bit late to let people have time in the gallery, since we would not all have fit. That was very good of you to know. He knew we wouldn't all fit in there. So we're going to have a bit of a conversation, and then we'll open it up for some of your questions, and we'll go until about 6:10. So we'll stay on time in our lateness. Something that Ian said to me in our prep conversation that I thought was really remarkable and also so resonant of our mission at Harwood and of Ian's mission as an artist, and felt like a really good place to start. This is a direct quote. "It doesn't matter who you are, a child or a person on your deathbed, everyone can be a genius, and we don't give ourselves enough credit." So you just get ready for the mic to drop several times as you hear him talk. But Ian, would you share more about what you meant when you offered me that insight?
Well, today, just today, this is not a joke, today, I saw a movie. It doesn't matter what movie. It's not about art. But there was a line in the movie that I thought was applicable right now, and that was extraordinary things happen in every life, and that's what I want to talk about with the work that I'm presenting today. Because who cares who you are, as long as what you did was of meaning to at least you, and if not other people, that's awesome. I'm really extraordinary surprised about people in general, because they're awesome. They're the greatest invention ever made.
It's true. And tell us more about that idea, because of course individuals are the focal point of your work. And as you depict your subjects, you also invent stories for them and narratives. And so tell us more about that process and how you choose a subject, and then how they bloom into a work of art and a story of their own in your mind.
That's right. Well, I am very judging of people, and well, it's not a bad thing. I just think way too speedily what I think they are, and I just thought, well, I'm an artist. That could be useful for something, and I've made that actually true, actually. And what was the question?
Tell us about your process. You're answering it.
Okay.
But please tell us about your process of, and you could even use one of the images in our snapshot. This is to make it feel like we're in the gallery. But share with us, please, how you choose a subject and then how their story leads for you.
I have like about 2 or 3 ways of picking a person. It's the first way, which is my favorite way, is immediately when I see a person, I know exactly who I think they are. Like this guy with the glasses, and well.
We didn't want to be talked about.
And the African American guy over there. And I knew exactly when I saw them who I think I would like them to be. And I don't care what they actually are. It's about what I think. And but that's very few and far between when that gets to be the case. Most of the time, I make the painting first, and then take the actual picture that what's the word? I'm messing up. No, I'm not. The
moment that you're capturing?
Yeah. The picture that I took in real life, I always paint from pictures, either with them knowing or not knowing. And if I don't know the bios immediately when I see them, it's usually after the fact that I paint them, that I just think they're interesting looking, and they probably have something interesting about them. That doesn't make sense, because everybody has something interesting about them. But it's usually after the fact, and then I'll look at their eyes or the way they carry themselves or whatever in the actual painting, and then I'll think, well, that reminds me of this person that I know. Maybe they know each other or something, and that's usually how I do it. How I get the bios.
And so your process is at once, like, it feels like something universal, and then it also feels very individual to you. And you also revealed that you first identified as an artist in second grade. And will you talk about how your time, experience, wisdom has informed your decision that you were an artist in second grade, putting you on a pathway to really realizing this body of work?
Okay. Well, honestly, when I was in second grade, I hated sports. Why do sports? So the only other option I had was art. And that was just the first starting point. But then all my friends who were also in sports liked art too. So I said, there might be something in this. I could do something. And I was good at it, so I kept going. And then as I went on and I got to middle school and high school, I actually grew a passion. I loved it. I love it still. And in my junior year of high school, all my friends and colleagues were coming up with cool, great ideas for projects with art, and I didn't have anything, so I was just asking the universe and God and Buddha, whoever you like, what should I do? And the universe said, here's some disabilities for you. And then I was out and in the hospital for the next 2.5 years, maybe more, and all I could do to keep me busy and happy and okay with myself was people watching. And I don't like looking at my phone too much. I love looking at my phone, don't get me wrong. But I thought I need something productive, so I was with my mom a lot of these doctor's appointments, and we started talking about what we thought the people that were sitting next to us, what are their stories? And I said, well that guy, he's obviously a baker, and that girl over there, she probably hates her mom. And then that eventually made me want to paint people. And then for a good year or so, I wasn't doing bios for the people. I was just trying to get my feet on the ground with watercolor. And then as I thought, I actually think I have something here. I wanted something more to make my stuff different than anybody else's. So I thought, actually writing who I thought they were would be an interesting way to do that. That's, yeah. All right.
So, how many people saw the cover article in the Albuquerque Journal about Ian and this show? Okay, great. So, clearly that got distributed. Glad to hear it. Something that made me think about is, the different stories that we ID, that we assign, that we invite, that we print, that we exhibit, and how there's so much in your background and in your experience, given your age, including a very rich family life and a somewhat traumatic health history, right? But we also talked about how those circumstances and experiences inform but don't define you. Would you talk more about that? How your upbringing, how your health history have informed your work?
Yeah.
Liberated you, not constrained you?
All right. Sadly, maybe more more for me than other people, but sadly, your parents and your family cannot go away from how you act in public and around other people. So I just oozed my parents when I talk to people, and both my parents are pretty awesome with people. They're socialized and I take that back actually. They do that for work. They don't always like people. In my personality, I can't help it, but I see my parents a lot, which sucks sometimes. So when I was in freshman year, I haven't yet told anybody this, but when I was trying to meet new people and try to make friends in a new setting, I was listening to what my parents would say, like, how would you talk to this person who's by themselves and probably likes anime or whatever, or sports or whatever they are into? How would you start a conversation? And I forgot what the question was, but I'm just gonna keep going.
How your circumstances and experiences inform but do not define you.
Okay.
How you define yourself.
Okay. Well, I can do an easy segue. I was listening to them, or at least my version of them in my head, and I was doing what I thought was the right way, which they hated all the time. But I after years of listening to my parents, I got my sea legs, and I knew how to talk to people, and which probably was always secretly inside myself somewhere, and probably from my grandpa actually. People, oh man, I love people. I never ever need to be alone. I could be around people forever, kind of. But as I moved to college, I was off on my own, so I didn't have my parents or my loved ones or any of the people that I really grew up with to tell me what to do, so I had to figure it out on my own. And that took a couple, 5 years, but and I think that's all I gotta say on that.
So, you talk about how much you love people. We can see that reflected in your work. But interestingly, you do not love depicting people you know. It's challenging for you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So will you talk about that and that these strangers are your center point?
I don't think it's just me who has trouble with this in art, or in really any medium of media, but it's so tough to depict people you know because you want to measure up to who you know they are. And they are going to find out that you drew them or whatever. And if they hate it, then it's a failure, obviously. And that's never a good thing or never a fun thing. It's always a good thing, to be honest. But, so I was just taking that out of the equation and making my own stories for people that I don't know. And well, if it's just me talking to myself, I can do that easy. And, yeah. It went okay.
And so when you see, because we see hundreds, thousands of people any given day, you know, when we're walking down the street, and you already have this clear boundary that like nobody in this room would make a good subject for you because there would be too much pressure, right? But in the infinite choice of the other people you encounter, how do you choose who to do a portrait of?
I'm sorry if I scared you on the street when I take a picture of random people, but I do that a lot, actually. Too much, probably. You know, I'm probably on some watch lists. But I don't care about, when I first see a person, I don't care what they look like or what they are doing in my brain, but I am thinking a lot about what kind of colors I want to use in their painting and whatever. And if they have a lot of color, I'll probably take a picture whether they look cool or not. And then afterwards, I'll sift through the good ones and the bad ones and find stories and maybe an idea of a story or what their home life is or what have you, and and then I'll go from there.
And stylistically, your work is really unique. And you shared with me that for you, the process is as important as the outcome, as the finished piece. And you talked about mark making and how you make your choices in media. Will you share more about that?
Sure. Well, I was in high school one day, and my teacher said, "Ian, you don't have a style." They didn't say that, I said that, but I said, "Mrs. McCoy, I don't have a style. Help me out. What should I do?" And my teacher, Mrs. McCoy, who I love dearly, said, "Ian, find 3 artists that you love more than your stuff right now, indefinitely." And I said, "Okay, I can do that." And I got 3. I can only remember 2 right now, and I don't even know one of their names. But she said, "Okay, Ian, with those 3, tell me what you like about each one, and then put that in your own work, all of them at once, and do that for like 2 more years." And I said, "Okay, I can try that. I don't know if that's gonna work." And it worked. I had a watercolor painter, a painter who was all over the place with her work, and I don't remember the last one, but eventually, after doing that for a while, I said, "Oh no, I should do this instead of what they did," and I don't remember the word. Osmosis, Is that a word?
Osmosis is the word.
Osmosis. Well, through osmosis of constant of doing that, I eventually figured out how to do it without looking at other people's work and just did what I thought was good work.
I would say it is good work in an objective sense and a subjective one. And I wonder how you, because clearly you embody and exude like bravery, vivacity, resilience, and will you talk about what inspired you to take this work from like a tool of personal navigation and healing to a public, and to be willing to show it in this space?
Okay, I have two answers. Do you want the sad one or the happy but also hopeful?
Let's start with the sad one, and then let's go to the happy hopeful.
Okay, well, the sad one was in Craig Hospital in Denver, Colorado, which is where I was living for a good year and some days. Which I was there for a brain injury from a car accident, which I was in a vehicle, which I wish. But everybody there, for the most part, they were nice and they acted happy around you. But everybody else, for the most part, were very sad sacks of very sad people. And I was like, wait though, I'm happy, I can be happy still. And I decided it would be awesome if I brought some, oh, this is cheesy. I would bring some light to the ward, and hopefully I did that. And people in the cafeteria and the university where I almost am not going to live anymore, say, Ian, why are you so happy all the time? That's stupid. You're stupid. Have you seen the news? And I say, of course not. Why? Because the news is really, really sad and very angry. And Donald Trump? Oh, I hate that guy. And I kind of, it's probably a defense mechanism, but I don't think I avoid thinking about things that make me sad. I still get sad, obviously. Everybody does. Everybody should. But I don't try to think about things that make me sad, and therefore, obviously, the only thing left is being really annoyingly happy. And that's the
thank you. I love how you wove together the sad and the happy hopeful into one answer.
It was supposed to be the unhappy the whole way, but I went off the rails because I don't like talking about it.
Well, I want to thank you so much again for sharing your work, but sharing yourself and your stories with us. And we have some more appreciations, but before we do that, I'd love to invite, we have time for a couple of questions. If anybody would like to ask, I see a brave hand.
Ian, I wonder if after you've taken a photo and comes up in your mind what this person's like, have there been occasions where you talk with the person? And if so, what did you find out?
This guy, he was the older. Okay, this fella, I know his name, I know what he does for an actual living, and I told him right up straight, hey, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about what I think. he was very into that.
What did you think?
What?
What did you think? Tell us what you thought.
What do you mean?
About him. What was your story?
Oh, well, you're just gonna have to find out.
Did I see another hand over here? One more question? Yes.
Did anyone ever recognize themselves after the fact?
No, but I did actually have a guy in the subway who got very angry when he saw me taking a photo of him. And so, obviously, he implied that he was going to kick my butt. Thankfully, he didn't, and I never ever painted him, and I don't think I will. Not because he's very interesting, because he was, but I could never think of a bio, a story, as better as what I saw of him that day.
One more question? And yes.
So when you talk about painting people you know, have you ever done a self-portrait? Is that sort of the same thing?
No, but for some reason, people have been saying there's a guy in there in my show that looks a lot like me, like crazily like me, but his name isn't Ian, which I don't know why I called him not Ian, because that would have been pretty cool, but I don't know. No, I have in the past, but not as good as the weirdo who I painted that isn't even me.
That is not true, Ian. As your art teacher.
Oh, okay.
Your last self-portrait.
Also, that's my good friend Amado, and if I didn't get his help, then this wouldn't be possible. So, big ups, my guy.
To the point made right at the beginning that I wish for a world in which every young person had a Deborah in their lives. Deborah also wishes that every young person had two people Ian has had in his life and asked me to thank them. Amado Pina, so that was timely. Ian's painting teacher, and a friend, Michelle Anderson. Are you here? Michelle Anderson. Deborah said about both of you that you've invested your hearts and souls to help Ian, and he has thanked you personally, but wanted to thank you publicly. So if we could please give them a round to... I think Ian is such a beautiful example of how art allows us to find the opportunity to find our voice and to find and navigate our paths in the world and to find and navigate a purpose. And so in the spirit of all of these appreciations, I invite you to go into the world and think with appreciation about who's invested in you and about who you're investing in. And again, Harwood is a place that seeks to bloom those opportunities, and none of this would be possible without our amazing team here. And I just want to, they're all working out there, but I do wish to name them to you. And when you see their name tags, if you would like to express your appreciation, Danny Belvin, who's our Programs and Education Coordinator, Becky Weiss-Campbell, who's our Community Relations Coordinator, Jordan Bernicki, who's our Acting Director of Community Outreach, And then the two fireballs behind the Galleries and Exhibitions program, we together make our curatorial decisions and work with all of our artists and our artist families. And that's Guru Amrit Kulza-Smith, who's our Director of Operations, and Stacy Drangmeister, who's our Programs and Operations Coordinator. So, and that's our core Harwood team, and they're all here tonight. So please express your gratitude. Please do not hesitate to continue. I don't think you will. This is a warm room, but please continue dialogue with our artists and our artists in the main gallery. And please, if we could give one final and resounding round of applause to Ian for his show.